Hey everybody, my name is John from Community Life Church, and this is Meals Ready to Eat from the Bible. We would really appreciate a like and subscribe. Today's episode is Jesus Goes for a Walk on the Water. So Jesus reminds us about all that he's done throughout all our lives, and not only that, what he's continuing to do in our lives. So now, just after the people were fed, after the 5,000 people were fed, Jesus wants to cross the sea to continue his ministry. So he has his disciples get in the boat, he goes to pray, and go on ahead of him. That's when the fun starts. So let's take a look at today's passage. It is in, let's see, we got Mark 6:45 through 52. It's up on the screen. I'll just read through it, and we'll see what God is saying to us today through this passage and what understanding of Jesus we can gain from it. So immediately, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side of Bethesda, while he himself was sending the crowd away. After bidding them farewell, he left for the mountain to pray. When it was evening, the boat was in the middle of the sea, and he was alone on the land. Seeing them straining at the oars, for the wind was against them, at about the fourth watch of the night he came to them walking on the sea, and he intended to pass them by. But when they saw him walking on the sea, they supposed that it was a ghost, and they cried out, for they all saw him and were terrified. But immediately he spoke with them and said to them, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." Then he got into the boat with them, and the wind stopped, and they were utterly astonished, for they had not gained any insight from the incident of the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. Again, that is Mark 6:45 through 52. So, what is God saying here? Kind of an odd story, I guess. But many times we see God do something that can only be explained as a miracle. You know, we've seen it, all of us have seen it in our lives. We've read about it in the Bible and other books. But the problem is that we forget what has happened. We forget what God has done for us. So we need God to remind us of what has happened in our lives so that we know what he has done for us. We need this reminder constantly. And that's what we're seeing here. Excuse me. So to recap, Jesus had calmed the storm. You know, they were in the boat and the storm was raging. Jesus was sleeping. He had rescued a demon-possessed man in a graveyard. He healed a woman who had been sick for years when he's on the way to heal a sick little girl who then died, and he raised her from the dead. And then he fed 5,000 people, or more than 5,000 people. That's a pretty good list of miracles. But even after that, their hearts were hardened, as it says in the end of this passage. They had not gained any insight from the incident of the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. So what does that mean? Well, it means they were turned to stone, figuratively, but they had become blind and forgetful. So why is that? Well, this happens when we're always looking at what we want right now. Right now becomes what's important, not what has happened and not what's going to happen. And they had not learned anything from what had happened. So this is an important message from Jesus, and it's something we have to pay attention to. What he has to say is not always, oh, you can be happy and this is happiness and everything's great. There are many things that he has to say to us to correct us and straighten us out. And this is one of them. Sometimes he just has to say to us, you have to get this right, and you have to get it right now. Secondly, the disciples in the boat were going through a rough time when he walked by. You know, he's walking by and the water waves to them, and they're like, whoa, what are you doing here? It was hard rowing into the wind. They did not understand what Jesus was doing, and they did not look at where he was sending them. Again, they had seen this lesson. They had gone to the graveyard to rescue the man there. They didn't get that Jesus was sending them there. They were too caught up in the problems they were facing right now. Again, the right now, what's happening right this minute, became what was controlling them. So we have to remember at all times and keep this in mind, what Jesus has done and what he is doing. And just as it says, this is Philippians 3, 13 through 14. Very good passage. Brethren, I do not regard myself as having laid hold of it yet, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind, the problems he came out of, and reaching forward to what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of Christ Jesus. So we got to reach forward to what Jesus is calling us to, and don't forget what he's already done in our lives. Thanks for watching. You can join us Sunday morning, 10:30 at 20 West Main Street, Catskill, New York. Can't make it? You can stream our services live on YouTube or Facebook, which you can find on our web at clchurch.cc. That's clchurch.cc. Don't forget to follow us throughout the week for devotions and times of sharing from leaders and staff. Leave a comment, leave a like, whatever you want. And thanks once again.